Co-founder of the Young Turks and self-described progressive, Cenk Uygur, he's gone on the defense after his weekend appearance at Turning Point USA's America Fest. Y'all didn't know, that is like MAGA. This is like right-wing / MAGA central. Cenk, who's been right here on the show before, joined MAGA influencer Charlie Kirk on stage. Charlie Kirk. Other speakers included Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, and the big kahuna, Donald J. Trump. Just to give you a sense of what this place is, who be there, and what they be doing when they get there. Again, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, and Donald Trump. When Steve Bannon is the least controversial person in the list, you know something is wrong. And this was a move that left a lot of people, particularly progressives, scratching their head. And I could see why. Let me show you a little piece of the actual moment where he's on stage, because this is weird to me.
And what I mean by that is not a revolution against the Democratic Party or the left or the country, but a revolution against the establishment. So I knew you guys were for real in fighting against the establishment when I started going on right-wing shows and I would say something negative about Mitch McConnell. And when I did that in the past, what I would get back is, oh, no, Mitch McConnell's great. Pelosi's terrible, but Mitch McConnell's great.
Let's do that here. What do you guys think of Mitch McConnell?
All right. Yes, I love that. So look, for my left-wing friends that are watching out there, they just booed Mitch McConnell. That's a great thing, okay? And let's do one more. What do you guys think about Dick Cheney? My left-wing friends out there, we have been waiting for the right-wing populists to boo Mitch McConnell and Dick Cheney our whole lives. Take the win. Take the win. Now, what we need to do in the Democratic Party is we need to do likewise. We need to have a revolt against the Joe Bidens, the Kamala Harrises, and the Nancy Pelosi's. And the Hillary Clintons, and now all of a sudden the Dick Cheneys. What are they doing on our side? Are you guys nuts? Right?
I have to interject. When all of a sudden Kamala Harris is doing the Liz Cheney thing, I said, does she want to lose? I mean,
what's amazing is I said the same thing. Look, Dick Cheney polls at 13%. What lunatic thought it was a good idea to wrap yourself around Dick Cheney? I mean, when we started the Young Turks 22 years ago, longest running show in internet history, first ever YouTube partner with original YouTubers, one of the driving forces was get Dick Cheney out of office, right? And now for Kamala Harris to come full circle and say, oh, I've got 90 corporate CEOs backing me, and I've got all these executives on my side, and I've got Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney on my side, was so counterproductive. It's not what the left wing stands for. It's not what the Democratic Party should be about. So the problem is the establishment. They are controlled by the donor class, and mainstream media is their marketing arm. They do not do news. They do propaganda. And one more thing. What I want you guys...
It's interesting. And Cenk, I hope you're paying attention to what they're clapping at and where they be dead silent, because this is mind-boggling what Cenk Uygur is doing right here. And I like him. He's been on the show. I've been on his show, but I got to call a spade a spade. This is bizarre. But what's more bizarre is not just the fact that people were outraged by it, but that he somehow couldn't understand why people were outraged by it. Let me, Cenk, give you some context here, because what you're doing here is very dangerous. I'm not going to call you a grifter. I'm not going to call you disingenuous like the other people on social media have. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think you're just wrong. I'm willing to give you the most generous read possible because I think you've earned it. And the most generous read I can give you is that you're just doing something ridiculously wrong, completely wrong-headed, the wrong calculus, the wrong expectations. I'm going to assume you're not trying to just, you know, play one end against the both ends against the middle. I'm going to assume that you're not trying to get right-wing money. I'm going to assume all the things that people are saying about you right now are not true. And I'm not, this isn't like a subtle way of like throwing jabs at you. I'm saying I'm going to genuinely, sincerely assume that you are operating with the best of intentions. And I'm going to say, hey, maybe he's just completely wrong here. First of all, you appear at a conference or whatever you want to call it, America Fest. Was that a convention? That's what I was looking for. With Charlie Kirk. You jump on stage with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is a racist. Charlie Kirk is not like a soft, subtle racist the way, you know, we might suspect that a whole lot of people who have a particular political perspective might have a little seed of racism and might have a little trace of racism here. No. Charlie Kirk is not just the person who says, oh, white privilege isn't real, although he says that. He's not the person that hates the books and fights against the 1619 Project and helped organize the 1776 Commission, which is basically to whitewash history. He did that. All that stuff is like the normal stuff. I mean, that's just regular right-wing racism, right? I mean, he called George Floyd a scumbag. That's pretty bad. This man said that Martin Luther King was an awful person. He called the Civil Rights Act of 1964 awful, a huge mistake. This is like public accommodations. This is like being, I mean, this is the basic stuff here. He's gross. Charlie Kirk does not represent our interests. Charlie Kirk is not somebody. This isn't the horseshoe theory, right? I mean, maybe in some people's minds it is, but this isn't like, oh, you know, we see the world very differently, but we kind of converge on this one issue. Charlie Kirk is dangerous. In addition to being racist, he says that no abortions are ever medically necessary. I'm talking about like literally, if a woman were going to die, literally going to die if she did not have an abortion, he would say die then. He's the person spreading the conspiracy theories about COVID-19. He was defending Trump, telling us that hydroxychloroquine worked. He's the one advancing narratives that the election really was stolen. He is a problem. He is homophobic. He is transphobic. I could go on. There's very little that could be said about Charlie Kirk that is good. I know that Cenk Uygur stands for ethical, principled, humanistic values. Charlie Kirk opposes all of that. So when you stand on stage with him, you lend legitimacy to him. Now I hear you saying, "Oh well, they won the election. They kicked our ass. They already have legitimacy." Yeah, they have electoral power. That's not the same as legitimacy. You're giving moral legitimacy to them. You're encouraging people to say, hey, our political differences are just that. It allows people to frame our political differences as minor differences of opinion as opposed to high stakes moral, ethical issues that reflect our fundamental humanity. In other words, it's like, oh, we see the world differently, but we can still come together. That's the way people like to talk about politics. But the things we differ on are high stakes things. These aren't things like, oh, well, I believe in offshore drilling and you don't. Oh, I believe that this is the way to recover the economy or stimulate the economy, and you believe that's the way to stimulate the economy. No, you don't believe that some people are people. You don't believe that some people are worth protecting. You don't believe that some people are worth living. And when you stand next to that person and make your differences seem relatively inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, you make it seem as if it's okay to have those positions. You legitimize ridiculousness, even among people who voted for Donald Trump. Some of them voted for Donald Trump. Again, I think they're completely wrong to vote for Donald Trump, but they voted for Donald Trump for very particular reasons. And now you're taking a whole, so we can't say, well, just because those people already voted for Donald Trump, so they're already powerful, and what I say and do next to them doesn't matter because they're already Trumpers. No, they could be a Trumper and still, I don't know, believe in science. And now you stand next to Charlie Kirk, and they're encouraged not to. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And you're trying to make it seem as if the left that's criticizing you is being dogmatic and unrealistic, etc. And that's ridiculous. Look at this. Cenk writes, I'm genuinely curious to see if folks on the left feel this is outrageous. We do. Spoiler alert. I go to talk to MAGA. They boo Mitch McConnell and Dick Cheney. On what planet is that a bad thing? Are you kidding me? Cenk, this is where you're too smart to be this. Like, are you being obtuse here? They didn't boo Mitch McConnell because they disagree with Mitch McConnell's policies. They didn't boo Mitch McConnell because they disagree with his politics. They didn't boo Dick Cheney because he prosecuted an imperial war. They didn't boo Dick Cheney because he destroyed and liquidated Iraq. They didn't boo Dick Cheney because of the Patriot Act. They booed Dick Cheney because they didn't endorse Donald Trump. I guarantee you that if Mitch McConnell and Dick Cheney were hardcore Trumpers, or just if Donald Trump today were to tweet or whatever his Truth Social platform is, if he were to say, I love Mitch McConnell, please support him, Dick Cheney's my guy, let's move forward, everybody in that room would be cheering for Mitch McConnell and Dick Cheney. So this isn't about the MAGA crowd and the political progressive crowd having a shared critique and distaste for Mitch McConnell and Dick Cheney. No, they're booing Dick Cheney because he didn't endorse Donald Trump. You, Cenk Uygur, believe that Donald Trump is awful. So if you believe Donald Trump is awful and that nobody should vote for Donald Trump, and they're booing Dick Cheney because he didn't vote for Donald Trump. In other words, the people doing the booing wanted the thing that you think is awful. Y'all don't have the same politics. I need to know why they're booing Mitch McConnell and Dick Cheney. I need to know why. If tomorrow Mitch McConnell saved a kid out of a burning building, and tomorrow Dick Cheney, I don't know, donated all of his money to a prison abolition fund, that crowd would boo them. And I wouldn't be like, oh, well, they booed Mitch McConnell and Dick Cheney, so we good money. No, I need to know why they're booing. In this case, they'd be booing because they're endorsing things that they hate and that I like. This is the problem. Now, Cenk is right. He's absolutely right. Kamala Harris hitched her wagon to Dick Cheney and Lynn Cheney, and it was an awful move. The people wanted progressive values. They wanted a progressive agenda, and you kept moving further and further to the right. I'm not defending Kamala Harris. It's important, though, that we understand why she made that move. It's because the very people in that crowd, the one you are pandering to, said that Kamala Harris was too leftist. They said she was too radical. On what planet is Kamala Harris too progressive or radical? She probably wasn't going to move in Israel-Palestine anyway, because they never do. I'm talking about U.S. Presidents. But that's the crowd that called her an anti-Semite and an anti-Zionist. What? Kamala Harris? The VP of Genocide joke? No, not at all. So again, please don't act like because y'all both booed or upset at something that we're creating some kind of common bond, or that the common agreement that you witnessed is somehow a signpost of an advanced politics or an advancing politics. That's not what's happening. Did you hear what when you said the donor class is the problem, they didn't say a word because they don't give a damn about the donor class. When you talked about progressive values, they didn't clap because they don't give a damn about progressive values. When you said the TV news is propaganda, oh, they believe that. But why? Because they think that mainstream media is the propaganda machine. They don't think Fox News is propaganda. They don't think OAAN is propaganda or OANN, whatever. One American, OANN, they don't think that's propaganda. They don't think News Nation is propaganda. They don't think Tucker Carlson is propaganda. So again, even when they're not clapping for the exact same reason you are. So Cenk, just to tie this thing up, you got to stop. You got to stop. Moving toward MAGA is a problem. I don't think you're politically moving toward MAGA ideology. I'm saying cozying, like moving toward them literally and physically, cozying up to MAGA is a problem. It is a dangerous, dangerous choice. Because again, you become part of that crew of people that thinks political differences are just the same as like what pizza toppings we like. It ain't. You make it seem as if the MAGA crowd can be converted or shifted. They can't, and if they can, it can't be on these terms. The convention you went to, Cenk, was a Trump cult revival. And so while they are right-wing and problematic in all the ways, all of that gets trumped, pardon the expression, by whatever Trump wants, whatever Trump needs. So please don't walk out of it thinking that you moved the ball forward, that you're, bridging the gap. This is the same shit Van Jones tried to tell us he was doing. And the next thing I know, he's in DC basically. Listen, I'm not going to go down to Van Jones rabbit hole. I'll just say this. History shows that this ain't a good choice. So, Cenk, I'm going to ask you to listen to those voices that are telling you you're wrong. Sometimes when everybody's telling you you're wrong, it's not because we just don't get it. It's because maybe we do.